So Eugene just showed up at my door 10 minutes ago with a suit and a journal full of reasons to stay in town. He asked me to winter formal as if he wasn't planning to leave everything behind 3 weeks ago, as if I hadn't spent 30 days desperately trying to change his mind. I'm standing here in my sweats trying to figure out if this is real or if I'm dreaming. But let me start with the day I picked up the note that fell out of his backpack, because those 10 seconds set off a chain reaction neither of us could stop. The bell rang and everyone practically sprinted out of chemistry like Mr. Withers had been holding us hostage. I was shoving my disaster of a notebook into my bag when this folded paper fell out of Eugene's backpack right in front of my desk. Eugene, who'd said maybe 10 words all semester and always looked like someone had just told him his dog died. I grabbed it thinking maybe I'd get some good gossip about him having actual human emotions or something. Yeah, that was stupid of me. The first line made my entire body go cold. This wasn't some love note or homework answers. This was a letter saying he was leaving town next Tuesday. He already had a one-way train ticket purchased. There was no forwarding address, no coming back. He was planning on disappearing in the middle of the night. I stuffed the note in my pocket and followed him out while my heart was basically exploding. He turned into the empty music room and I counted to 10 before following him in. Then I shut the door and locked it, which definitely wasn't dramatic at all. What the hell? He spun around and stared at me like I'd lost my mind. I held up the note. This fell out of your bag. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out. Give it back. No, that's mine. Give it back now. His voice was deadly quiet, but I could hear something underneath it. Fear, maybe. Or anger. Probably both. I said no. You want to explain this? I waved the paper at him. I don't owe you an explanation. You don't know me. We've never even talked before. Well, we're talking now. My voice came out louder than I meant it to. You can't just disappear. You can't just leave everything behind like your life here means nothing. This is dangerous. You get that right? He laughed, and it was the ugliest sound I'd ever heard. Wow, really? It's dangerous? I had no idea. Thank God some random girl from chemistry informed me. Don't be an asshole. Then don't be an idiot. What's your plan here? Tell the counselor? Call my parents? Go ahead. They won't stop you. That stopped me cold. What? Just give me the note and pretend you never saw it. I can't do that. I found it for a reason. You found it because I dropped it and you're nosy. That's not fate. But I wasn't giving up. Something about the way he said I wasn't the first made me push harder. Give me 30 days. What? 30 days. Let me show you 30 reasons to stay in town. 1 per day until winter formal. You're actually insane. He shook his head. You think what? We'll go get coffee and watch sunsets and suddenly I'll realize this town is perfect? You watch too many movies, Heather. I think you've already made up your mind. So what's 30 more days? I was making this up as I went, but he didn't need to know that. Unless you're scared you might actually change your mind. I'm not scared of your Hallmark card bullshit. He stepped closer and for a second I thought he might try to grab the note. You know what? Fine. You want to waste your time? Go ahead. But when this doesn't work? It might not. But at least try. Fine, he pouted. I held out the note and when he reached for it, I tore it in half. Then in half again. He looked at me all shocked, then got furious. That was mine, he said quietly. Not anymore. I dropped the pieces in the trash can by the door. We start tomorrow. Don't make me hunt you down because I absolutely will and it'll be embarrassing for both of us. I unlocked the door and left before he could respond. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely open my locker, but I'd done it. I'd bought 30 days. Now I just had to figure out what the hell to do with them. So here I am with 30 days to convince someone that staying in this town was worth it when honestly some days I'm not even sure myself. Eugene thinks I'm going to drag him to some inspirational sunrise or make him volunteer at an animal shelter like this is some feel-good movie. He has no idea what I actually have planned. Because the thing about showing someone reasons to stay when they've already decided running away is the only option is that you can't play it safe. You have to get creative, you have to get uncomfortable, and sometimes you have to be willing to break a few rules. Tomorrow is day 1 and I already know exactly where we're starting. Let's just say Eugene's about to learn that I don't do anything halfway. Update. I'm writing this from a train station and I need to get this out before I lose my mind. So remember how I promised Eugene 30 days? We made it to 8. 8 days before I found him at the train station with a duffel bag, about to board. 8 days before he left me a note that said I was just playing savior to feel better about myself. I had to tell him things about my mom that I've never told anyone just to make him understand I wasn't playing around. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start with day 1 when I thought I could actually do this. I made Eugene meet me at school at 10 p.m. the next day, which he complained about for 20 minutes straight through text. When he finally showed up in the parking lot, I was sitting on the hood of my car swinging a janitor's keyring I'd borrowed from Mr. Salas's desk when he wasn't looking. We're going swimming, I announced. No. He looked at me like I was crazy and started walking back to his car. He shouted, Heather, it's October. And also nighttime. And also the pool's closed. And also I don't swim. And also number. Yes. I hopped off the hood and blocked his path. That's what makes it fun. Your definition of fun is concerning. He tried to step around me, but I moved with him like some kind of annoying basketball defender. Get out of my way. Nope. Day 1, remember? You agreed to 30 days. I agreed to let you waste your time. Not commit felonies, not freeze to death. We're just entering. Enthusiastically. Besides, do you want to stand here debating the legal system, or do you want to get your day one over with? He stared at me for like a full 30 seconds, trying to win some kind of mental standoff. I knew he would follow, so I started walking toward the gym doors, and after a moment of probably contemplating my death, he followed. If we get caught, I'm telling them you forced me, he muttered. Sure, Eugene. Tell them the 5'4" girl forced you. You're like 4'11". I am 5'4.5", asshole. The pool room was creepy as hell in the dark, just the emergency lights making everything look green and weird. Okay, I'm here, but I'm not swimming, Eugene said, standing at the edge like the water might bite him. Yes, you are. I was already taking my shoes off. Why? Because you're so busy planning your escape, you forgot what it feels like to actually exist in the moment. That's the stupidest thing. I pushed him in before he could finish his sentence. He hit the water with this massive splash and came up gasping and cursing my entire family line. What the fuck is wrong with you? He sputtered, pushing his soaked hair out of his eyes. I jumped in after him fully clothed because honestly, why not at this point? I hate you, he sputtered, but he was almost laughing. Good. Hate's a feeling. We're making progress. We floated there in the stolen silence of the place, two idiots in their clothes in the dark, and for just a second, neither of us were thinking about running away from our problems. On day 3, I texted Eugene at 1:30 a.m. on a Wednesday night. Get dressed. We're going to a diner, and sent him the address. His response was immediate, which meant he wasn't sleeping either. It was just a thumbs up emoji. Eugene showed up looking like death warmed over, hair sticking up in 12 directions. Why am I here? He deadpanned. Food tastes different at 2 a.m. when you're supposed to be asleep, I told him as he slid into the booth across from me. That makes zero scientific sense. Most good things don't. The waitress looked about 70 and completely unbothered by two teenagers destroying their sleep schedules. Eugene ordered black coffee and nothing else. You need to eat something, I said. Not hungry. I knew that wasn't true, so I ordered one of everything from the breakfast menu. That's crazy, Eugene said. You can't possibly eat all that. Watch me. When the food came, it covered the entire table. Pancakes, waffles, eggs every way possible, bacon, sausage, hash browns, toast, French toast, oatmeal. Eugene stared at it all like it personally offended him. Try the hash browns. I pushed the plate toward him. I said I'm not hungry. Just one bite. They're crispy. Why do you care if I eat? Because starving yourself is boring. At least be original. He took the smallest possible bite, probably just to prove a point. Then he took another one. They're decent, he admitted, then stole 3 more when he thought I wasn't looking. On day 6, I dragged Eugene to the abandoned parking garage behind the old Sears at midnight. We're going to scream, I announced when we got to the top level. I'm sorry, what? Scream. As loud as we can. Until our throats hurt. He looked at me like I'd suggested we light ourselves on fire. I went first, just opened my mouth and screamed into the empty concrete space. It echoed forever, bouncing off walls and coming back angry. Eugene stood there looking deeply uncomfortable. Come on, I said. No one can hear us up here. This is so stupid. Everything's stupid. Scream about it. He did this weak little yell like he was calling a dog. That was pathetic. My grandmother could scream louder and she's dead. That got him. He actually screamed for real this time. And then again, and then we were both just screaming into the darkness like lunatics, our voices cracking and overlapping until you couldn't tell who was who. We went until our throats were raw. Then Eugene screamed words instead of just sound. It should have been me. The echo made it worse, repeating it back over and over. Should have been me. Been me. Me. His whole body was shaking and he was breathing heavily like he wanted to cry but couldn't. Eugene ... Don't, he said, sharp and ragged, like opening up that can of worms would have destroyed him. Just don't. I couldn't stop thinking about what Eugene screamed in that parking garage. It should have been me. The words kept bouncing around my head for 2 days, and I knew I was missing something huge. Day 7, we'd gone to the arcade and he'd played games like a zombie, not even reacting when he won. Something was getting worse, not better. So day 8, I decided to try something different. I'd found this old music store that let you play any instrument for free, thinking maybe he needed to create something instead of just consuming experiences. I texted him 3 times with no response, which wasn't that weird since he usually ignored me until I threatened to show up to his house. But something felt off. Maybe it was the way he'd looked at me yesterday, like he was memorizing my face. Maybe it was just paranoia. But I drove to his house at 3 p.m. when his parents would still be at work. The front door was cracked open, which immediately made me nauseous. Eugene? I pushed it wider and stepped inside. The house was dead silent, that kind of thick quiet that feels wrong. Eugene, this isn't funny. I walked through the living room, noting the family photos where someone had been carefully cut out of each one. The kitchen was empty. I climbed the stairs and my hands were already shaking because some part of me knew. Some part of me recognized this specific type of quiet from when I was 10 years old, coming home from school to find the house too quiet, and Mom's bedroom door open, her room ransacked and all her things just gone. Eugene's room looked just like hers, like a tornado hit it. Drawers pulled out, closet door hanging open, hangers on the floor. His laptop was gone. His backpack was gone. That stupid physics textbook he carried everywhere was gone. Not again, not again, not again. Please, not again. I repeated to myself, a cheap effort to comfort myself and think of a solution. Eugene, please, I can't do this again, please. My mind was spiraling and eyes darting everywhere, and that's when I noticed a note on his nightstand. My name was at the top. Stop playing savior. This isn't your fault, but it's not your business either. Find a better project. I crumpled it up and threw it at the wall. He was going to the damn train station. I just knew it. I didn't know if I was too late, but that didn't stop me. I got in my car and went to the nearest train station. The train station was huge, and I was running around like an idiot with no plan. It didn't help that the place was packed with business people with their stupid briefcases, families dragging crying kids, everyone moving like they knew exactly where they were going except me. I was that crazy girl sprinting through the crowds, checking every platform, every bench, every corner where someone could hide with a duffel bag. Platform 1, I found nothing. Platform 2 was just some couple making out, which, gross. Platform 3, 4, 5, nothing. Nothing. My heart was doing that thing where it beats so hard you can hear it in your ears. What if I was too late? What if he'd already gotten on some train to nowhere? What if this wasn't even the right station, and I was wasting time while he was running away to God knows where? Then Platform 7, I spotted him. He was waiting for the train doors to open. He was gripping his duffel bag tightly. Then the door opened, and he already had one foot stepping forward. I didn't think, just ran because this was my only chance. I grabbed his jacket with both hands and yanked backwards so hard we both went down. We hit the platform floor with this horrible thud that knocked the wind out of me. My elbow hurt like hell and people were staring, but I didn't let go of his jacket. What the fuck, Heather? He tried to scramble up, but I still had his jacket in a death grip. I got right in his face to yell at him. What are you doing? We had a deal. 30 days, remember? You promised me 30 days and it's been 8, and you're just gonna run away like a coward? Let go of me. His voice was ice cold. The train doors closed and it started pulling away. He watched it go and his whole face changed, got meaner. You just ruined everything. That was my chance to finally... To what? Disappear? Leave everyone wondering if you're dead in a ditch somewhere? You weren't even supposed to be at my house. Well, tough luck, I shouted. I watched him look at me with this look of disgust, like he couldn't hate anything more than he hated me right now. Then he went off on me. I specifically told you to leave me alone. I left you a note. Why couldn't you just... Stop. But he didn't stop. You had no right to interfere. This was my choice. My decision. You know what you are, Heather? You're pathetic. Some sad girl who needs to feel important by forcing herself into other people's lives. Eugene? No, you listen. You think because you drag me to stupid places and make me scream in parking garages that you understand me? You don't know anything about me. You're just another person who needs me to stay so you can feel better about yourself. I rubbed at my eyes, feeling the aching of my heart and how heavy everything felt. I just sat there taking it all, watching him rage from his hospital bed while my brain kept putting my mother's face over his. Say something! Eugene practically screamed at me, and I realized I'd been completely silent for minutes. I'm not playing around with you, Eugene. My voice came out flat and strange. You think this is a game? You think I'm doing this for fun? He started to respond, but I kept talking. My mom left when I was 10. The words came out quiet, almost like I was testing if I could actually say them out loud. She never wanted me in the first place. She got pregnant at 19 and wanted to get rid of me. I swallowed hard. But her parents found out and they were super religious, so they forced her to keep me. Eugene went completely still. She resented me every single day. I could feel it, you know? My voice was starting to shake and I had to stop, take a breath. The way she'd look at me sometimes like I was this thing that stole her life. She'd see her friends on Facebook living their college life, traveling, being normal 20-somethings, and then she'd look at me like I was a prison sentence she was serving. Eugene looked uncomfortable now, but I couldn't force myself to stop now that I opened up the can of worms I swore I would never open. Then one day I came home from school. It was November 19th. I'll never forget that day. Her car was gone, Eugene. I thought maybe she went to the store. But the house felt wrong, empty in a way that gave me goosebumps. Her closet was cleaned out, drawers empty. She just erased herself from my life like I was something she could just walk away from. My voice was cracking and I didn't care. Do you know what that does to a kid? Thinking that your own mother would rather disappear completely than stay with you? He couldn't answer me because he didn't know. How could he know? No one's seen her since. No one knows where she went. I can't even remember what she looks like anymore, Eugene. My own mother's face just faded. Sometimes I think I imagined her entirely. I took a deep breath, not allowing myself to cry when I needed to be strong. I looked up at him, sure of myself. My voice got steady and stern. So no, Eugene, I'm not playing savior. I'm not trying to fix you for my ego. I'm trying to give you what I couldn't give her. A reason to stay before it's too late. You promised me 30 days. So either keep your promise or look me in the eye and tell me those 22 days mean nothing to you. He stared at me with his mouth open, all his anger vanishing. Heather, I didn't. 22 more days, Eugene, but that's all I'm asking. Give me that. He agreed. But here's the thing Eugene doesn't realize. While he was sitting on the train station floor agreeing to 22 more days just to shut me up, I was already making plans. Because if he thinks I'm going to go back to midnight pool breaks and pretending everything's fine, he's wrong. I saw those family photos with someone cut out. I heard him scream, "It should have been me," like it was ripped from his soul. There's something massive he's not telling me. Something that's eating him alive. Tomorrow I'm done with the fun and games approach. I'm going to find out what actually happened, who was in those photos, and why Eugene thinks running away is the best option. He owes me 22 days, and I'm going to use every single one to drag whatever he's hiding into the light. Second update. So I said I was going to find out what Eugene's been hiding. Well, I've been keeping tabs on him since the train station, making sure he actually shows up places, doesn't disappear again. But today, day 15, he went somewhere I didn't expect. A cemetery. And suddenly all those cutout photos and that scream about how it should have been him started making horrible sense. I'm sitting in my car watching him talk to a headstone, and I'm about to understand exactly why he wants to run away so badly. After the train station, things got weird between us. So Eugene kept his promise about the 22 days, but it felt different. Days 9 through 14 were quiet. We'd meet up and just sit places. A coffee shop, the library, his driveway. Neither of us talking about what I'd told him or what he'd tried to do. It was like we'd both shown too much, and now we didn't know how to act normal. He was obviously depressed, but something had changed. Maybe it was knowing about my mom. Maybe it was me knowing he'd actually tried. Either way, we were in this strange limbo where I didn't know if I was helping or just watching him run out the clock. Day 15, I decided to switch tactics. Instead of texting him about meeting up, I just parked down the street from his house and waited. I know how that sounds, but after finding him at the train station, I couldn't shake the feeling that he might try to leave again. That the 22 days were just him humoring me. So when he came out around 5 p.m. and got in his car, I followed him. I stayed back enough that he wouldn't notice, feeling like a stalker but also like I couldn't not do this. He drove for about 20 minutes, past the school, past downtown, to the edge of town where everything gets rural. When he turned into the cemetery, I suddenly felt like I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. I parked outside the gates and watched him walk in, then waited 5 minutes before following. The cemetery was old, headstones dating back to the 1800s mixed with newer ones. I found Eugene in the newer section, standing in front of a black granite headstone. Miles 2005 to 2022. Beloved son and brother. The math was easy. His brother died 2 years ago at 17. Eugene was 15 when it happened. He was just standing there, hands in his pockets, talking quietly. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see his shoulders shaking. I should have left. This was private. But something made me walk over. Not close, just near enough that he'd know I was there. He didn't turn around. "How long have you been following me?" he asked, voice flat. "Since you left your house," I admitted, because what was the point of lying? "That's creepy, Heather." "Yeah, well, you almost leaving was worse." We stood there in silence for maybe 5 minutes. The wind was cold and I pulled my jacket tighter. Finally, Eugene said, his name was Miles. He was 2 years older than me and perfect at everything. He laughed, but it was bitter. I mean, literally everything. Straight A's without trying. Varsity baseball since freshman year. Full ride to Stanford for engineering. The kind of son parents brag about at dinner parties. I moved closer. Still not touching him, but close enough that he'd know I was listening. They loved him more. That's not even me being dramatic, it's just true. He was easier to love. Funnier, smarter, nicer. I was the weird kid who read too much and couldn't catch a ball if my life depended on it. "What happened?" I asked quietly. Eugene's whole body tensed, and for a second I thought he'd just leave. I was sure he would shut me out. But then the words started pouring out. We were coming back from his baseball game. February 10th, 2 years ago. He'd pitched a no-hitter and we were going to get pizza to celebrate. Mom and Dad were meeting us there. His voice was getting rougher. This truck ran a red light. One of those huge pickups. Miles saw it coming before I did. I swallowed hard, mentally and physically preparing myself for what was to come. I was in the passenger seat and the truck was coming right at my door. He stopped talking and kicked at the grass. He turned the wheel. Hard left. He put himself between me and the truck. The words came out strangled. I'm alive because he turned the wheel. He chose me. I wanted to say something, but my throat was closed up. Eugene kept going like if he stopped now, he'd never get it out. The truck hit his side going 50 miles an hour. He died on impact. Meanwhile, I walked away with bruises. He finally looked at me and his eyes were red and wet. Everyone said he was a hero, that he saved me. But all I could think was that the world lost Miles, future engineer, Stanford student, perfect son, and got stuck with me instead. The disappointing one. The spare kid who wasn't supposed to survive. "Your parents?" I started, but he cut me off. "They never say it, but I know they wish he had survived instead. Even though they never say it, I know. How could they not? They lost their golden child and got left with the broken one. Every family dinner, every holiday, every fucking day, I can see them looking at me and seeing the wrong son. They cut him out of all the family photos because it hurts too much to see him. But I know what they're really doing is trying not to think about how it should have been me that got hit. How Miles should be at Stanford right now instead of in the ground. His voice cracked completely on the last word, and suddenly he was crying. Not pretty tears, but ugly, body-shaking sobs like something had finally broken open. I was supposed to die that day. The truck was coming for me. He wasn't supposed to turn the wheel. He wasn't supposed to choose me. I'm not worth it. I'm not worth his life. I grabbed him then, pulled him against me even though we weren't huggers, weren't friends like that. But he needed someone to hold him together while he fell apart. It should have been me, he kept saying into my shoulder. It should have been me. It should have been me. I held him while he cried in that cemetery, this broken boy who'd been carrying his brother's death like a weight around his neck. Everything made sense now. He wanted to leave this life behind because it was a constant reminder of his brother's death. He wasn't just depressed. He was drowning in survivor's guilt, convinced he'd stolen his brother's life and didn't deserve to keep it. Eugene, I said when his sobs finally slowed, your brother turned that wheel because he loved you. Not because you were worth less. Because you were worth everything to him. Worth his life. That's not a debt. That's a gift. He pulled back and looked at me with eyes so lost I wanted to cry. How do I live with that? You don't have to figure out how to live with it forever. Just today. Then tomorrow, just tomorrow. Stop trying to solve your entire life at once. Miles gave you time. Use it to breathe, not to plan your escape. But here's the thing about sharing your deepest trauma with someone. Once you've both bled all over each other emotionally, you can't go back to being strangers. The next 7 days were about to prove that I'm much better at saving people than I am at keeping my feelings in check. And Eugene? He was about to find out that staying put meant dealing with feelings he'd been running from too. Third update. Eugene just told me he needs space. From me. The person who kept him from running away. Apparently I'm becoming his reason to stay, and that's not healthy. I'm sitting in my car trying to process how saving someone turned into whatever mess just happened on day 22. After the cemetery, we didn't talk for 2 days. Not because we were avoiding each other, but because what do you say after something like that? I'd held him while he sobbed about his dead brother. He'd watched me admit my mom abandoned me like I was trash. We'd crossed some invisible line, and neither of us knew how to walk it back or move forward. So we just texted stupid memes back and forth, pretending everything was normal when nothing was normal anymore. Day 16, he finally broke the silence with an actual text. Coffee? And before you ask, yes, I'll eat something. I showed up to find him already there with 2 muffins and my usual order waiting. Look at you, remembering I'm lactose intolerant, I said, sliding into the booth. Hard to forget when you dramatically announced it to the entire Starbucks last week. We sat there for 2 hours, not talking about Miles or my mom or running away, just existing in the same space without it feeling like we were on suicide watch. But Eugene was still Eugene. Day 17, he canceled last minute. Day 18, he showed up but barely talked. Just stared at his phone like it held the secrets of the universe. You okay? I asked after 20 minutes of silence. Define okay, he said without looking up. Not actively planning to flee the state. The bar's that low now? The bar's underground, Eugene. He almost smiled at that. Almost. Day 20, Eugene showed up at my house without warning. My parents are having their monthly, let's pretend our son didn't die dinner party. Can I just be here? We spent the night on my roof, him pointing out constellations while I pretended to understand what he was talking about. That one's Cassiopeia, he said, tracing the shape with his finger. She was vain and got turned into a constellation as punishment. Harsh, I said. Better than disappearing, though, he said quietly. Yeah, I agreed. Way better. I should have known something was shifting when he started talking about the future. Not in a I'm planning my escape way, but casual mentions. When we graduate, he'd say. Or, next summer we should. Like he was actually planning to stick around. He even mentioned looking at colleges, all local ones. And my heart did this embarrassing somersault thing because maybe, just maybe, I was part of the reason he wanted to stay. And that's when I knew I was in trouble. Because I'd started noticing things I shouldn't. Like how he pushed his hair back when he was concentrating. How he hummed these random physics equations under his breath. How when he smiled, one side went up higher than the other. Stupid things that made my chest feel weird and tight. The 22nd day was when Eugene confronted me on my feelings. We were at the park, sitting on swings like we were 5 years old, when he suddenly stopped swinging. Heather, he said, and I knew from his tone that something was wrong. What? I asked, even though I didn't want to know. I've been thinking, and I need to tell you something. I braced myself to hear the worst news of my life because nothing good ever followed those words. You're my reason to stay in this town, he said, not looking at me. My heart stopped. These past few weeks, you've made me remember what it's like to actually want to wake up in the morning. But that's the problem. I was so confused. How is that a problem? Because I can't stay just in this town for you. I need to want to stay for myself. I need to actually heal, not just, he paused, as if carefully choosing his words. Attach myself to you like you're some kind of life raft. The words hit me like a punch because he was right. and I hated that he was right. I signed up for therapy, he continued. Real therapy, not just coffee shops and midnight screaming. And I think I need to do this part alone, at least for a while. I wanted to argue, to tell him that was stupid, that we were good together. But I couldn't, because I understood. God, I understood completely. Okay, I said, even though it felt like swallowing glass. Okay. We sat there on those swings, not talking, both knowing everything had changed again. And the stupidest part? I'd fallen in love with him somewhere between the cemetery and the constellation lessons. But he needed to save himself, and I had to let him. Some people think that when you ask for space, the other person just sits around waiting for you. But some people are about to discover that 8 days of silence works both ways. And apparently Eugene's been busier than I thought. Stay tuned for what happens at Winter Formal because day 30 is going to be absolutely insane. And spoiler alert, I'm not the one who's been preparing something special. But I might be the one who ends up speechless. I'm literally crying in my bathroom and my mascara is everywhere. Eugene just did something on the day of Winter Formal I never saw coming and I can't breathe. 2 months ago, he wanted to leave everything behind. Tonight? Tonight, he just changed everything. Days 23 through 29 sucked. There's no poetic way to say it. Eugene kept his word about needing space, which meant complete radio silence. No texts, no memes, not even the stupid TikToks we used to send at 3 a.m. I saw him once at the grocery store and we both pretended not to notice each other, which was super fun, and not at all like being stabbed in the chest repeatedly. I spent most of the week in bed rewatching The Office and eating cereal for every meal, because apparently that's what you do when you're in love with someone who needs to heal independently or whatever. My dad kept asking if I was sick. I told him yes because heartbreak probably counts as an illness, right? Should be covered by insurance, honestly. Day 27. I actually typed out a text to Eugene that said, "I miss you," but deleted it because what was the point? He needed space. I was giving him space, even though the space felt like it was killing me slowly. Day 30 was the day of Winter Formal, the official end of our deal. I wasn't going. 30 days ago, I'd torn up Eugene's note and promised him 30 reasons to stay in town, 1 per day until Winter Formal. Well, here we were. I'd kept my promise, given him every reason I could think of from midnight swimming to playing in the park. And it worked, I guess. He was still here, not on some train to nowhere. I was trying not to think about how I wanted to go to the dance with him, how I wanted to celebrate making it to 30 days. Instead, I had my whole pity party planned out. Sweatpants, ice cream, maybe a good cry while watching some terrible rom-com where people actually end up together. But then the doorbell rang. My dad was out, so I had to drag myself downstairs, fully prepared to tell whatever Girl Scout was selling cookies that I'd take 50 boxes of Thin Mints because emotional eating is valid. Except it wasn't a Girl Scout. It was Eugene in a suit. An actual suit that fit him properly and everything. He was holding a journal and his hands were shaking. "Hi," he said, and his voice cracked like we were in middle school. "Hi," I managed, very aware that I was wearing SpongeBob pajama pants. "So I've been going to therapy, right? Like real therapy with a real therapist who has degrees and everything." He was talking fast, nervous. I wondered where he was going with this. And she made me write things down. Homework, she called it. He held up the journal, still talking fast. I was supposed to write reasons to stay. My own reasons, not for anyone else. I have 30. He opened the journal with shaking hands, flipping through pages covered in his messy handwriting. There's simple ones like number 7, the way rain sounds on the school roof during chemistry. Ones that took so much courage to write like 18. My parents need me, even if we don't know how to talk about Miles yet. His voice got quieter. Number 29 was the most eye-opening. This town has all my memories of Miles, the good ones too, and leaving wouldn't make them hurt less. He looked up at me then, and his eyes were wet. But I have a 31st reason. One I wasn't supposed to write because it's about you, but I wrote it anyway because some rules are meant to be broken. My heart was pounding and hands shaking. Reason 31, he said, and his voice was shaking, but he kept going. I want to love you the right way. Not because you saved me or because you're my reason to stay, but because you're stubborn and ridiculous, and you pushed me into a pool in October. Because you can't understand constellations no matter how many times I explain them. Because you saw me at my absolute worst and didn't run away. Eugene, I whispered. When I think about the future now, I don't think about leaving. I think about being here, in this town I wanted to escape, but with you, and somehow that makes everything different. I was crying, full-on crying on my doorstep in SpongeBob pajamas, while Eugene confessed his feelings with a journal in his hands. So I'm standing here in this stupid suit that took me 3 hours to pick out, asking if you'll go to Winter Formal with me. Not because it's day 30 or because we had a deal, but because I can't imagine going with anyone else. I can't imagine doing anything without you anymore, and that doesn't scare me like it did 8 days ago. It just feels right. I looked at this boy who'd wanted to disappear, who'd been so broken he couldn't see a future. This boy who'd learned the difference between needing someone and choosing them. You bought a suit, I said, which was stupid, but my brain wasn't working properly. I bought a suit, he confirmed. The guy at the store said it brings out my eyes. I don't know what that means, but it sounded important. I laughed through my tears. He was right. I like you, Heather, he said suddenly. And so I kissed him. Just grabbed his stupid suit jacket and pulled him down and kissed him right there in my doorway. He dropped the journal and his hands went to my face and we were both crying and kissing and it was messy and perfect and everything. 10 minutes later, I was in a dress that matched his suit and we went to winter formal together.